The morning I decided to leave, the sky was the color of old paper. Not blue, not gray, something tired in between. I tied my scarf tightly under my chin and stood at the edge of the shelter yard, watching people climb into trucks, cars, anything that still moved. Engines coughed like sick animals. Somewhere, a baby wailed without stopping, as if it already knew the road was cruel. I had no car. I had no plan. Only a name and a direction. My son is south, I told the man organizing the convoy. I must go that way. He looked at me the way people look at walls they cannot climb. We are full, he said. Next convoy is tomorrow. Tomorrow is too late, I said. He sighed and waved me forward. Sit in the back. If we are stopped, you get off. I climbed into a truck between a woman holding a sack of clothes and a boy who stared at the floor. The truck smelled of dust and sweat and fear. When it started moving, my heart beat faster than the engine. The road out of the city looked like a body after surgery. Cut, stitched, cut again. Burned cars lined the sides. Buildings leaned toward each other as if whispering secrets. At one checkpoint, soldiers waved us through without looking at our faces. I kept my hand on my phone the whole time. No signal. We drove for hours, or maybe only one. Time still did not behave. At a bend in the road, the truck stopped suddenly. The driver shouted something. People stirred. A distant boom rolled across the hills like slow thunder. We cannot go farther, the driver said. Bridge is damaged. Some people stayed. Some got down and walked. I got down. My legs shook as soon as they touched the ground. The earth felt too wide after the shelter floor. I tightened my grip on my bag and began walking with the others, following the road as it curved south like a question mark. Each step felt like borrowing from tomorrow. I rested when I had to. On stones, on broken concrete. Once, on the shadow of a sign that said nothing. A man offered me water. A girl gave me half an orange. A woman walked beside me for a while without speaking. When she left, she touched my arm as if passing me courage. By evening, we reached a small village that had not yet learned it was part of the war. Chickens crossed the road. A man sold bread from a window. I bought one with shaking hands and ate it slowly like a ceremony. That night, I slept in a mosque with other travelers. The floor was cold. The ceiling was high. I dreamed of doors opening. In the morning, my phone buzzed. One bar of signal appeared, like a miracle. I dialed my son. Mother, he said. His voice sounded closer than before. Reeler. I am coming, I said. Do not move. There was silence. Then, where are you? I don't know, I said honestly. But I am walking toward you. Something broke in his breathing. We will come to meet you, he said. Stay where you are. I waited in the village square under a tree that had lost half its leaves. Old men played cards on a crate. Children kicked a plastic bottle. Life was pretending to be normal. 2 hours later, a dusty car stopped in front of me. I knew it before the door opened. My son got out first. He looked thinner, older. His beard had grown wild. For a second, we just stared at each other like strangers who shared a face. Then he said, Mother, and I was not 72 anymore. I was the woman who held him the day he was born. He wrapped his arms around me. His body shook. I felt his tears soak into my scarf. I thought, he whispered. I thought. I know, I said. I know. His wife stood behind him with the children. They looked at me like I had risen from a grave. The youngest ran forward and hugged my legs. I missed you, Grandma, she said. I touched her hair. I missed you too. In the car, as we drove away from the city, the road unrolled like a long story finally being read aloud. Fields replaced rubble. Trees replaced smoke. The sky slowly remembered how to be blue. We did not talk much. We listened to the sound of distance growing between us and the bombs. At their new house, my son showed me a small room. "You can stay here," he said, "as long as you want." That night, I lay on a mattress near a window. No jets, no explosions, only insects singing. I stared at the ceiling and waited for fear to come. It did not. Instead, something else came. A tiredness so deep it felt like sinking into warm water. In the morning, my son made tea the way his father used to. Too strong, too sweet. We sat together at a small table. "I am sorry," he said suddenly. "I left you." I looked at him. "You ran to save your children," I said. "That is what sons do when they become fathers. But you were alone." "Yes," I said. "And I survived." He lowered his eyes. "I will never forgive myself." I reached across the table and took his hand. "Then do not waste that feeling," I said. "Use it to remember me while I am alive." Days passed. News came and went like bad weather. Sometimes we heard distant thunder that was not thunder. Sometimes the power went out. Sometimes the phone lines died again. But every morning, I woke up breathing. I helped with the children. I swept the floor. I told them stories at night. One evening, my granddaughter asked, "Grandma, were you scared?" I thought of the basement, of the dark, of the voice calling my name. "Yes," I said. "Very." "Did you think you would die?" "Yes," I said. "What did you think about?" I looked at her small face, so serious in the lamplight. "I thought about how I wanted to be remembered," I said. "Not as someone who waited, but as someone who walked." She nodded as if this made sense. Now, when I close my eyes, I still hear jets sometimes. But I also hear footsteps coming down the stairs, calling my name. I was 72 when the bombs hit Tehran. My son ran to save his family and left me in the house. I hid in a basement for 3 days with no food, listening to the sky fall apart, thinking I would die forgotten. But I did not. I walked out of the dark, and I found my way back into my own story. So if you are listening to me now, remember this. War can take houses. It can take cities. It can take years from your face. But it does not get to decide who you are. Not if you keep moving. Not if you keep calling your own name. Not if you refuse to disappear quietly. I am still here.
After my grandson was buried, the house became too large for one old woman and one grave. Every sound reminded me of him. The scrape of a chair, the creak of the door, the echo of his footsteps that were no longer there. I kept his suitcase under my bed. I could not open it. It felt like opening his ribs. People came with condolences. They brought bread, dates, and their pity. God chose him, they said. I wanted to scream, no. His mother did, but I said nothing. Silence became my second child. Weeks later, the war quieted, not ended, just paused like a beast catching its breath. That was when my daughter finally called. Her voice was sharp with tears, but not the kind that wash pain away. These were tears mixed with defense. "They say he died because there was no medicine," she said quickly. "If he had stayed in America, he would be alive." "Yes," I replied, "and if you had brought him back, he would be alive too." She inhaled sharply. "You don't understand. I tried." "No," I said. "You stopped trying." Silence fell between us like a wall. "I had 2 children here," she whispered. "What if something happened to them? What if the government took them? What if? What if your son in Iran died?" I interrupted. "Did that not enter your mind?" Her breath trembled. I didn't think it would be like this. That sentence became the knife I carried in my chest. I didn't think it would be like this, as if death had not been clear enough. After the call, I stopped speaking to her. Days passed, then months. I talked only to my grandson's photo. His smiling American face stared at me from the shelf like an unanswered question. Did I protect you enough? I asked it. Did I lie to you too gently? Did I teach your mother the wrong kind of love? At night, I dreamed of airports. I stood behind glass walls while he banged on the other side, calling my name. My daughter stood next to me, holding another child, and she never looked back. One winter morning, a letter came. Not a call, a letter. Her handwriting was stiff, like someone writing with a broken wrist. Mother, I cannot sleep. He comes to me every night. He stands in the hallway and asks why I left him with you. I don't know what to answer. I dropped the paper. She had nightmares. I had a grave. Still, something inside me softened. Pain speaks in many languages. Months later, she came back to Iran. She stood at my door, thinner, older, with grief carved into her face like a second mouth. I did not hug her. She looked around the house. Where did he sleep? On the floor, I said, like a guest who did not want to stay too long. She covered her face. I thought I had time, she whispered. You thought wrong, I replied. We sat across from each other like strangers, sharing blood. She told me about America, how she feared losing her job, how immigration officers watched her family, how her husband blamed her for sending the boy. I chose safety, she said again. No, I said quietly. You chose distance. She looked up sharply. What does that mean? It means you loved him as long as he was close. When he became far, you loved yourself more. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. We went to the grave together. She knelt, pressing her forehead to the dirt. I'm sorry, she said into the earth. I thought Grandma would protect you. I turned away because I could not tell her that I failed too, that I could not fight war with old hands, that I could not buy medicine with prayers. After she left again, I grew sick, not with illness, with memories. I stopped eating, stopped opening windows. The world had taken my husband, then my grandson, then my daughter's soul. One night, I almost welcomed death. I lay in bed and said, if you take me tonight. But morning came, and with it a knock. A neighbor's girl brought me soup and said, my mother says you must not die angry. I laughed. Anger was all I had left. 1 year after my grandson's death, a package arrived. Inside was his old American jacket and a letter. Mother, I am learning to say his name without choking. I am learning that fear does not excuse abandonment. I was a coward. I was your daughter, but not his mother when he needed me most. My hand shook. I don't ask forgiveness. I only ask to stand in your presence without you turning away. For the first time, I cried for her, not for him, for her, because losing a child is tragedy. Losing your humanity is worse. I went to the mirror that night. I saw an old woman with war in her eyes, and I asked myself, if I do not forgive her, who will bury this pain? But forgiveness is not a door. It is a long road, and I had only just taken the first step. Forgiveness did not come to me like rain. It came like dust, slow, dry, settling on everything. After the letter, I carried my daughter's words in my pocket for weeks. I did not answer. I did not call. I let the silence teach me what pain still needed to say. One evening, I took my grandson's jacket from the shelf and held it to my chest. It still smelled faintly of soap, and suddenly I understood something that made my knees weak. He was gone, but I was still alive, and my daughter was still alive too. The war had taken one life. I did not want it to take two more. I called her. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been holding the phone already. "Mother." "I will come," I said. Silence. You will." "Yes," I said, "but not to comfort you. I am coming to speak truth." America was louder than my grief. Cars, voices, wind that smelled like cold metal. My daughter met me at the airport with tears running down her face before she reached me. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. "Not yet," I said. She nodded like a child who had already been punished and was waiting for the next blow. Her house was warm, too warm, safe. My grandson's photos were on the wall: baseball cap, school smile, birthday cake. I looked at them and said, "You kept his image, but abandoned his body." She fell to her knees. "I was afraid," she said. "I thought if I waited, someone else would save him." "No," I said gently. "You thought distance would save you." She looked up. "I thought I could live with it. And now, I can't breathe." Her words broke something open, because they were not excuses anymore. They were confession. That night, we sat at the kitchen table like two women instead of mother and daughter. "I taught you to survive," I said, "but I forgot to teach you to stay." She sobbed into her hands. I wake up hearing him call me Mama. I tell myself I was protecting my other children, but inside I know I chose the easier fear. I reached across the table and touched her wrist. "War does not kill only bodies," I said. "It kills courage too." She looked at me like someone seeing water after years of thirst. "Can you forgive me?" she asked. I did not answer. Instead, I said, "Come with me tomorrow." We went to the park. Children ran. Mothers laughed. Life was shameless in its continuation. We sat on a bench. "I will not pretend you did nothing," I said. "Your choice left him alone in his last breath. That truth will not change." She nodded, trembling. "But," I continued, "if I keep punishing you, I make his death my whole religion, and he was more than his death." She began to cry quietly. "I want to be a mother again," she whispered, "not the woman who hid." "Then start by carrying him," I said. "Not your guilt. His name." She looked at me. "What do you mean?" "Say it," I said. "Say his name without apology." She opened her mouth. At first, no sound came. Then, "My son, Armin." Her voice broke, but she said it again and again until it did not stab her throat anymore. Before I left America, she took me to his room. Everything was untouched. His books, his jacket, his shoes. "He was waiting for you," she said. Every day, I sat on his bed, and for the first time I did not cry. I felt him like sunlight on old skin. Not painful, just warm. When I returned to Iran, the house was still small, still quiet, but it no longer felt like a tomb. I planted a tree in my yard. For him. I named it Armin. I spoke to it every morning. "Grow," I told it. "Do what you were not allowed to." Children from the neighborhood came to sit under it. I told them stories about a boy who crossed oceans to meet his grandmother. They did not know his end, only his love. My daughter calls me now every Friday, not with fear, with questions. How do I raise them better? How do I teach them courage? I tell her, by staying when it is hardest. One day she said, "Mother, I am not the woman I was." I answered, "Neither am I." Years passed. My hair turned white. The war turned into memory. The tree grew taller than my roof. And one afternoon, sitting beneath it, I realized something strange. I was happy, not because the wound was gone, but because it no longer ruled me. My grandson had died in war. My daughter had betrayed fear into action. And I had learned this final truth. Love is not proven by survival. It is proven by return. She returned to her humanity, and I returned to my life. Sometimes I still hear his voice in dreams, but now he is laughing, not calling, not waiting, just running through light. And I wake up with peace in my chest instead of fire.